Hello students, today we will discuss lesson number 12 of history, the Renaissance. So what this Renaissance means? Renaissance means the rebirth of freedom-loving thoughts. So in the Middle Ages in Europe, when the things were controlled by the church only, there was a change in the thinking of common man and they started to think about the new. So there was a new spirit, the spirit to know more about the world and its wonder. So during this time when Renaissance was there, it was also a shift from the Middle Ages to the modern age. So let us start with this chapter. The disintegration of the feudal system. Feudal system was a system when feuds were there, means lands were granted to nobles and those lands were granted to these nobles in return of their services. So what type of services they were providing? So these feudals or these nobles were providing help to the emperors in case of emergency, war or any other requirement. So when there was a discouragement of this feudal system in Europe, ushered in a new social and economic order. So with this, one new social and economic order began. It means there was a change in this feudal system, or simply we can say now the system was not welcomed in future by the commons, and this marked the beginning of the modern era. So up to this time Middle Ages were going on and now this was the beginning of modern time. One cannot say when the Middle Ages gave place to the Renaissance. Exactly, we can't say that in this month, in this year, Renaissance was started. No, we can't say, because this was not a kind of a thing that happened in a particular day. So this was the improvement of years, and these improvements were in society. But the historians are in general agreement that three great events, so which those three great events are: the Renaissance, the geographical discoveries of the 15th and 16th century, and Reformation. Means these three things: first Renaissance, second discoveries, third Reformation. So these three events contribute in the shift of middle to modern ages. So this marked a definite charge from the Middle Ages to a condition which could certainly be called modern, and progress in thought and activity was most obvious during those days. So earlier time during the Middle Ages there was lack in the uh, freedom to speak, freedom to express, but with the advent of these three events there was a certain changes, and those changes were the reason behind this modernization. It was progress in thoughts and activities. Now, definition of Renaissance. The term Renaissance is derived from the Latin word renaissere. It signifies the rebirth of the freedom-loving thoughts, which during the Middle Ages had been fettered and imprisoned by religious authority. As in the beginning I told you, so the things were under the control of religious heads only, and the freedom loving thoughts were not there because those thoughts were crushed by the religious authorities. Now a new spirit was in circulation, that was the spirit to know more of the world and its wonder. So this was the spirit when people started to know about the world and its wonder. It means they started to know about the reality. What is reality? Not in the orders or religious order. It was a period characterized by the rebirth of learning of Greco-Roman classics. So in this time or in this period, there was a rebirth, means people again started to learn the Greco-Roman classics. So whatever was written earlier, the writings of scholars, the books of scholars, now they again started to read them. Revival of art. So there was a change in art also, and growth of humanism. So now people started to think about the humanism for the benefit of the human being. Although the change began in Italy, it did not stop there. So actually, this process of renaissance, this was started in Italy, but very soon it spread all over the world. It passed beyond the Alps mountain to France, England, and Germany, and changed the attitude and frame of mind of people there also. So very soon it was spread towards France, England, Germany, and also changed the mindset of people, those who were living in that area also. Later it spread to all parts of Europe. Moreover, Renaissance was not a mere revival of new birth, of but had gone before. Renaissance in Europe became an intellectual movement, and it brought new developments in the fields of literature, religion, philosophy, politics, art, and science. So it was not a simply rebirth of the earlier thinkings, but new things were also introduced. Changes were there in each and every field. So this was really an intellectual movement. Now, certain causes were there for this Renaissance. So let us start with the causes for the advent and growth of Renaissance. First, the capture of Constantinople by the Turks. In the year 1453, the Ottoman Turks means those Turks who were related to Ottoman Empire. So these Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople, that was the capital of Byzantine Empire, which remained in Christian hands for more than 1,000 years. So near about for last 1,000 years, that area was under the control of Christians. Its libraries contained the manuscripts of world famous Greek and Roman writers. So in the libraries of this, many great thinkers' writings were kept, but no one was there to read because of everything was controlled by religion only. But now that area was captured by Constantinople, uh, captured by Ottoman Turks. So this area of Constantinople was captured by them. And now what happened? As the siege of the city began, the students and scholars fled with a number of priceless manuscripts. So now, because the city was captured by the Turks, and all the scholars and all the students, near about all the students, they started to move from that area to another area. But they did. They kept those kind of written material with them. So they went to various parts of Europe. They were especially welcomed in Italy because the George Guest puts it that the land had already given birth to famous men of letters Dante, Petrarch, and Boccaccio. So what happened when they moved with that literature towards other areas of Europe? They were welcomed by all, but especially in Italy. because already names are mentioned, because already these scholars were there, means Italy gave birth to these scholars, and among these scholars, these nobles, they were very famous in that area for their writing, revolutionary or innovative writings. And nobles, merchants, and churchmen flocked to near new teachers. So whether they were nobles, they were merchants, or other churchmen, they grouped under these new teachers. So who these new teachers are? All these persons. Now, some of the teachers founded academy. So these teachers means those who came from Constantinople with their literature. Now they became here as teachers. Few teachers founded academies, like educational institutions, in various important towns of Italy. The Greek scholars Chrysolorus, who came from Constantinople, encouraged classical Greek studies and opened a school in Florence. Hundreds of classical writings which were unknown for centuries were now read with interest in Italy and other European countries. So now when they started to open their academies, and some started to work in the educational institutions as teachers, then they started to spread the knowledge which they were having, and all the books that they keep with them, it was having writings of great scholars. And for many years it were just kept, I mean these writings were just kept in libraries. Now the thoughts which were written in those books, it started to spread over the area of Italy and other countries of Europe. So this was the first reason. It means new knowledge, new education was spreading over the areas, and this was one cause behind the advent of Renaissance. Second is decline of feudalism. As in the beginning I told you about the feudal system, and now feudal system was getting declined due to discouragement. Now people don't want to continue with that same system. Then, under feudal system, huge estates were owned by landlords. So earlier, when this feudal system was, under that feudal system, very huge, big land portions were owned by landlords. And these landlords were exploiting the peasants, the farmers, and the feudal system was opposed to progress and social mobility. So they were not ready for the progress and for the social mobility. So these feudals, they just opposed this progress and social mobility. And there was no freedom or equality of rights under this system. The decline of feudalism in the 13th and 14th centuries developed the habit of free thinking. Because now that feudal system was declined, it means there was a rebirth or new birth of the habits of free thinking. And the feudal lords had always been fighting against each other. So earlier, under the system of feudalism, those feudals, they were used to fight with each other. And the peace and good order that followed the decline of feudalism favored the growth of new learning. So with the decline of this feudalism, there was the beginning of peace. So when peace was there, then the area started new learnings that led to new developments in the field of art, literature, science, and philosophy. So this decline of feudalism was the second cause. Third, new trade routes between Europe and the East. Now, the same Turkish invasion that drove the Greek scholars westwards made trade in the eastern Mediterranean too risky. So already they captured Constantinople. Now they made very difficult to do trade activities, means others were not able to do trade with the foreign countries who were there in their way, or it was very risky to do trade in the eastern Mediterranean areas. Therefore, new trade routes to India and the East had to be found. So, it was the necessity to find new trade routes because here trade was difficult. So, it was the time when the scholars or when the emperors they started to find out new trade routes. So, they started to find new trade routes to India and the East. It was in It was in search of these new routes that Vasco da Gama went round the Cape of Good Hope and reached Kerala's coastal town of Calicut in 1498. So, just in this, to search the new sea routes, Vasco da Gama he went round the Cape of Good Hope. The name is given uh, in a water body, and when he crossed this Cape of Good Hope, then he reached in Kerala's coastal town, that is Calicut, in 1498. And Ferdinand Magellan, that was a Portuguese nobleman, he went round the globe between 1520 and 1522. So he just um, take a round of the globe, means he started to move all around the world between the year of 1520 to 1522, sorry, 1520 to 1522. The new routes between Europe and the East brought great prosperity to Italian cities. So prosperity was there because of trade routes were developed, I mean new trade routes. And since Italy became the center of all trade routes, it led to the spread of Renaissance to the rest of Europe quickly, because already Renaissance was there in Italy. And when trade routes were established, and mainly Italy was the center of these trade routes, then it spread that Renaissance all over the Europe very quickly. So this was the another reason. Now fourth is the humanism. So what is humanism? The spirit of inquiry. During the medieval period, religion played an important role in the life of man. Everything was subjected to religion. So earlier everything was controlled by religious authorities only. A number of scholars, however, discarded the ideas and beliefs of the medieval age. They paid greater attention to humanistic values. So when everything was controlled in Middle Ages, when everything was controlled by religion, even in that time also scholars they were not ready to accept that type of ideas, and during that time even they paid great attention to humanistic values. They believed in mankind's ability to achieve happiness and perfection without the need for religion. So, according to them, one person can get happiness, he can achieve happiness and perfection with his abilities, with his hard work, even without religion. So, religion was not important for them. Next, role of pre-Renaissance original thinkers. Scholars like Peter Abelard and Roger Bacon were great rationalists. Abelard taught in the University of Paris between 1110 and 1140. He maintained that a doctrine was not to be believed because God had said it, but because we are convinced that it is so. So these great scholars were those who were already there before this Renaissance period. And among these scholars, the important persons or important writers like Peter Abelard, Roger Bacon, they were the great personalities in the area, and this from this we can judge the thinking of these scholars. So according to the scholars, a doctrine was not to be believed. So something that is said even by God, we cannot believe, or we shouldn't believe that these are the words of God, but we can believe if we are convinced that it is so. So if that thing can make us convinced that this is a reality, then only we can believe. Otherwise, we should not believe even those are the words of anyone, even the words of God. He was forced by the church to withdraw his statement. So, because this was against the religion, so Abelard was forced by church. So Abelard was the person who wrote down this. So he was forced by church to withdraw his statement, this statement. Then men with advanced ideas. Roger Bacon was a 13th century scholar, but looked at modernity of his thoughts in these words. So he was there in 13th century. So here time period is written 1214 to 1294. But his thinking was rich in modernity, means whatever in modern time we are thinking, in his thoughts everything was there. And his thought in these words we can judge. Machines for navigation are possible without rowers, so that great ships guided by one man may be borne with greater speed than if they were full of men. Likewise, cars may be made. So, from this, what we can judge from their writings, that they were having very innovative ideas. Even in that time period, they were thinking about modern technology, like to cross the waterways, to cross the seas and oceans. It will possible with the machines, and their thoughts are related to those machines, even that in modern time we can say cars or even flying machines like aeroplanes. So similarly, flying machines are possible, so that a man may sit in the middle, turning some device by which artificial wings may beat the air in the manner of a flying bird. So in 13th century even they wrote down about the machines, like they can develop in cars or aeroplanes. Even at that time no one can even think about that man can fly in air. All the above thinkers are called the forerunners of Renaissance. Why? Because all the thoughts that were adopted by the scholars who were there, or who were simply we can say those who started this Renaissance, or the thinking of this Renaissance, before to them, these were there with that modern ideologies or that modern ideas. That's why they are called as the forerunners of Renaissance. Then is invention of printing press. The invention of printing press in middle of the 15th century in Europe made it possible to produce books in large number. So earlier the writings were kept in a place because there was not a kind of printing press developed. With the help of printing press we can get more copies of one book. So now when the printing press was invented in 15th century, it was possible to introduce large number of books, and Holy Bible and many other religious and classical books were printed and made available in all over Europe. So with this printing press, now it was easy, or it was possible to spread that books in all over the areas. So now Holy Bible, and other religious and classical books printed in many number, and now it was or these books were available all over Europe. Printing and distribution of books greatly influenced people's attitude to life and brought about a new awakening in Europe, because the writings of the great scholars were now in the hand of each and every person who want or who can read. And it means with this everyone can aware about the writings and about the new and innovative ideas what were earlier kept in libraries only, or it was available for few persons because printing press was not there. So with the invention of printing press, this was possible, and this was also a main reason or main cause of this renaissance. So in this video we will do up to this only. Next topic we will discuss in our next video. Till the time, watch this video carefully, try to get the topics. If any doubt, you can message me. Thank you.